From the Lima City Schools was Kane Vistano. Kane was with Mayor Berger today, and Mayor Berger had another speaking engagement at noon, so he couldn't make it, but Kane spent the morning with the mayor. We have DeMaria, did I pronounce it right this time? Good. Thompson and Kristen Knuckles, if you two would stand up. They were with the Public Works Department today, worked with Howard Elstro and Rick Stolley, and I don't know who else, but they got to see hard-working city employees. From Apollo, we had Adam Johnson, and he was with Tammy Hirsch from the City Law Department. Tammy. Also from Apollo, we had Rachel Love, and she was with Amy Odom from the Department of Community Development. Amy was here, and she must have left. Oh, she's over there. Turn the camera off, Amy. No pictures. These will find their way back to the mayor, and then I've got lots of explaining to do. Also from Apollo, we had Tyler Neer, and he was with the Lima Fire Department. And with the fire department today, we have Chief Hefner, Chris Jackson, and Warren Pugsley.
Like, we have Kane, we have no Abels.
We'll get back, we'll get there. Right. Yeah. From Shawnee, we had, I'm going to announce the first two together because they're not here, Lauren Donovan and Rachel Keski. Those two were with Rhonda Eddie Steinecker. Is Rhonda here? I didn't see her. And also, and Rachel was with the Allen County Sheriff's Department, and I'll introduce you guys in a second if you're the student. Those two had to leave to go to another Optimist club today, believe it or not. The Shawnee Optimist. They were both receiving scholarships from the Shawnee Optimist Club, and I understand why they went there. I'm sure that was a little more important than coming here just to eat a lunch if they're getting the scholarship. So, two good students. Also from Shawnee is Kane Plogger. Kane was also with the Lima Fire Department. From Lima Central Catholic High School, my alma mater, a long time ago, school was still there. Ella McNamara, and she was with Margie Murphy Miller. Zach Schroeder, and Zach was with the Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Fish and Chief Deputy and Elizabeth Colley, did I say it right, Colley? And she was with Wade Meister from the City of Lima Utilities Department, but like most City of Lima Utilities Department workers, he had a lot to do today. He had to get back to work, so he had to leave early. So. Yeah. From Spencerville High School.
Mike, I think I saw him at Tamarack.
Yeah, he was looking for me. From Spencerville, we had 3 students, and they all were worked today with the juvenile courts. Kyle Sawmiller, Dustin Settlemeyer, and Daniel Settlemeyer with our own Judge Derryberry. These were the students that participated this year, so let's give them all a round of applause together. The second half of it is the speaker, and I wanted to speak, and said I couldn't, so I knew you'd appreciate me more, so I brought my twin brother with me today, so today I would like to introduce a good, energetic, great speaker, but instead I've got Tony Geiger with me today. So Tony Geiger, I think a lot of you know him. He's the city law director. He's been law director for a long time. Not as long as the mayor's been mayor, but he's been law director for a long time. And obviously he's doing a good job because he has to get elected. So, and I do work very closely with Tony in the utilities department because the the things we do, we need a good lawyer to keep us out of trouble. So I'm not going to go into all the details and accolades. He gave me a 2-page summary of everything he's done, and I said, no way I'm going to read that off. So I'd like to introduce you today, Tony Geiger, the City of Lima's Law Director.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for that wonderful round of applause. I appreciate it. I don't hear that very often.
Nobody does here.
I want to tell you how wonderful Mike is. I work with him on a daily basis. He told me that a tradition of the Optimist Club is that the club and the guests on today in particular are supposed to pay homage to the individual who was responsible for the program, which happens to be Mike. And he told me that it was tradition for all of you to pay homage to him today. So I brought along a couple visual aids to help you do that. There's one. It won't sit on the credentials.
That's a low shot.
Here's the other. Which might, well, that won't sit, so I'll put that up here by the bell. So while I'm speaking, you guys can gaze upon Mike in admiration and homage. I have to tell you that if you watch TV closely, depending upon the camera angle when Mayor Berger is interviewed, you may actually see this photo in the background on occasion, just as a demonstration of how important Mike is to the city. And it even extends to the county, because I'm pretty sure, Sheriff Krish, that I have seen Mike in the background during one or two of your interviews as well. So it's something for you to watch out for after today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today on this Youth in Government Day. I told my son last night, my son Adam, he's a junior in college, that I was giving this speech today. And he told me that if I really want to communicate effectively with the youth in the audience, that I should send them my speech via text message or on Twitter. And he said I should use a lot of hashtags. I don't even know what a hashtag is. So we're not doing that. I'm afraid you're going to have to suffer through this little speech using the old-fashioned methods of communication, talking and listening. The goal of the Youth in Government program is simply to develop in our youth an awareness about how their government functions and how they can become well-informed and active citizens in their communities. Hopefully your time today with various public officials and employees will give you some of that insight and awareness, with the possible exception of Mr. Kane Mastano, who spent the day with the mayor. Poor guy. I went up to the mayor's office this morning, stick my head in, to borrow some visual items for today. And there's the mayor sitting behind his desk, typing away at his computer, responding to email, preparing documents, whatever in the heck it is he does. And there's poor Kane just sitting on the other side of the desk watching him type. Poor guy's wondering what in the heck goes on with the mayor. That's all he does. Kane probably thought he was on Twitter or Facebook or something. I don't think that's the case. But for this talk, I want to focus a little bit on the second part of what I mentioned, which is how to become well-informed and active citizens with respect to our government. In order to do that effectively, I think it's important to remember some basic facts about our government. Civics 101, I know that takes some of us back quite a ways, tells us there are three branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial. The legislative branch, of course, makes the laws. For you young people, one of you, can you tell me who, on the federal level, our legislative branch is comprised of? Anybody? Anybody? Any of our young people? Yes, sir. Congress, very good answer. The House of Representatives and the Senate, they comprise the legislative branch, collectively known as Congress. They make the laws. Then there's the executive branch, which carries out the laws. Anybody executive branch of our youngsters, not our more mature audience? President, who said that? Yes, very good, that's correct. And of course, there's also the administrative agencies at the federal level. Mike's favorite, the Environmental Protection Agency. And then there's the judicial branch, which interprets the laws, or depending upon who you talk to, the judicial branch sometimes makes the laws. And if you happen to notice, speaking of the judicial branch, if you happen to notice Judge Reed or Judge Derryberry nodding off while I'm speaking, don't worry, that's normal. Right, Judge? Yeah, exactly. I figured the audience would appreciate that, Judge, but I'm glad you added that. Now, for the city of Lima, the legislative branch is, any of the kids know that? Legislative branch? Mrs. Hirsch, you tell them. Very good. City Council. They make the laws for the city of Lima. And I just happen to have the laws of the city of Lima. Pretty much all of them. It's not quite up to date, but it's pretty thorough. And what I would like to have now is a volunteer from one of our youths. Yes, sir. You raise your hand. Come on up.
Yeah.
Stand here. Grab hold of that. Tell us how much you think that weighs.
Right, 5 pounds.
5 pounds, he says. Have you ever heard, well, those are all the laws, so in a way that represents justice for the Lima community. You ever heard of the scales of justice? I happen to have.
Yeah.
Scales of justice. Now you laugh, but it really is. It says right on the back. So we're going to see how much justice weighs in the city of Lima, using this young man as a volunteer. And I'm glad you volunteered instead of one of the ladies, because that might have been embarrassing. So we will put that there. As soon as that calibrates, we'll have you stand on the scale without the laws to see how much you weigh. Hopefully it doesn't break my scale. 192 pounds. Can you remember that, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's let it recalibrate. This time, hold on to the law. Hold it on your chest. Okay, stand on it. Look up straight. Still calibrating. 202.8 pounds. That's about 10 pounds of justice in the city of Lima. Thank you, young man. We appreciate your help.
Yeah.
So, how are we to become informed about and participate in our government? Well, first, I think you need to understand what really is our government, or more specifically, who really is our government. What I never really understand are the people who complain about government and government officials and employees, as if those officials and employees are something other than human beings. Government officials apparently are some form of alien being who are supposed to always be perfect and who always make the right decisions. According to those naysayers, and for those of us old enough in the crowd, I think it was Vice President Spiro Agnew who called them nattering nabobs of negativity. The government is apparently some undefinable, amorphous, huge entity that acts on its own accord to solve everybody's problem all the time. And oh, by the way, we don't want to pay for it, or at least the other guy should pay more for it than we do. Our second president, John Adams, is often credited with the following quote: Actually, before I get that, Mike, do you have that list of the kids? I noticed something. Actually, I'm sorry, I didn't notice it. It was brought to my attention by my erstwhile assistant law director. John Merkel, would you stand up? Quincy Livchak, would you stand up? Adam Johnson, would you stand up? You know, I'm about ready to give you guys a quote from John Adams, who was our second president. And we have right here in this room, right now, John Quincy Adams.
Yay!
The sixth U.S. president. Can I draw him in or what?
Yeah.
Well, John Adams, the second president, is often attributed with the quote that we are a government of laws, not of men. The point he was making is appropriate and admirable, but the practical reality is that men, and I use that in the generic sense of the term, because of course we have women in government as well, but men create the law, men execute and enforce the law, and men interpret the law. And again, that's in the generic sense. Government, therefore, is people, human beings. Interestingly, that's not just my observation, although it's a good observation. I happen to have yet another visual aid, a pocket copy of the United States Constitution. On there is a picture of George Washington, not Mike Caprello. And there is a quote attributed to George Washington, where it says, "The Constitution of the United States, its only keepers, the people." That's who's responsible for our government. And I think that is the most important thing for all people to remember, not just the youth in our audience today, but that all government officials, every single one of them, federal, state, local, no matter what their role in governance, even Mike, they all we are in reality the government of people. Now that's true, of course, in the physical sense, but think about what that means. It means government officials and employees are like everyone else in the world. Some of them are nicer or more intelligent than others. Most all are more intelligent than Mike. They all have strengths and weaknesses. Mike has more than his share. They all have individual idiosyncrasies, like Mike. They all have good points and bad points, like Mike. The bad points, not the good points. They all have the capacity for human foibles and weaknesses. They all make mistakes. And I will definitely include myself in that last category, as Judge Reed and Derryberry will attest. I make plenty of mistakes. So citizen participation in government ultimately involves communications and relationships among human beings. Now, do you know who appreciates that concept the most? Who appreciates that government officials are human beings and are subject to human characteristics and desires? Lobbyists. That's who. They make their living attempting to find the right path to convince a legislator to do something or not to do something. And they do that on a personal level, a human level, often involving green items that look like this, with 2 zeros behind them. Now understand, though, that I most definitely am not saying that our government is comprised of blathering idiots and scoundrels who take bribes from lobbyists, at least for the most part. Occasionally and unfortunately, we do get those kind of people. But I think it is necessary to understand and appreciate that the framework of human reality, to appreciate that framework of human reality in order to understand not just how our government functions, but how we can approach public policy issues so that our government functions the way we want it to. Us old folks know this, but you young folks may not have figured it out yet. All of life is comprised of relationships with other people. Boyfriends, girlfriends, marriages, friendships, significant others, civil unions, bosses, co-workers, moms, dads, brothers, sisters, pastors, teachers, you name it. They all involve other people. And you have certain expectations and methods of dealing with those people to accomplish your goal. Government, especially local government, is the same. So if you understand that, then just as you decide every day how to deal with all the other people in your life, you can also craft the manner in which you want to participate with our government, from the understanding that government is comprised of people. Public participation does not mean the absolute control of the outcome. As the song says, you don't always get what you want. It means merely participation in the process. And for citizens to participate, to be effective in their participation, they have to participate. There are two main ways, I think, to do that. Being informed and being involved. Being informed is actually kind of easy. You have to read the local newspaper. You have to watch the local news. You have to know what's going on in your community. And you can also see some interesting things, as I mentioned. You might be able, if you watch the news, you might be able to see Mike Caprella, even when he's not the subject. You can also expand your horizons by reading out-of-town papers and watching the national news. The internet's a marvelous tool for that. Although some papers now are going towards paywall, a lot of them still are not on a statewide basis, and you can see what's going on in other communities. In particular in Columbus, that keeps you abreast of all of the legislative activities. There are such things, I'm told, as blogs. Now, I think I know what those are. I assume the young people know more about those than I do. Blogs and Twitter. I actually, myself, have a Twitter account. That's why Mike calls me a twit. Calls me worse than that. That's true. I have no followers on my Twitter account. And I have no tweets in my Twitter account. All I use my Twitter account for is the aggregation of news, which helps me, it's tailored individually to help me in my job and my personal interest in life, which do not include which movie star is having a baby, which other movies. I don't get into that, but you can if you want. It's a marvelous tool. You can also go directly to government websites and get on their email lists for information. Those are 4 very easy ways to become informed about what's going on in the community. You can also become involved in the community. The most obvious way to do that is to vote. In the last presidential election, does anybody know what the voter turnout was by eligible age for the presidential election last year in 2012? Anybody want to take a guess? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Somebody?
35%.
35%. That's actually not a bad guess, but it is pleasantly low. Actually, for the 2012 presidential election in Allen County, the turnout was 57%.
That's good.
Which, when you think about it, means 43% did not participate in that very basic function. And the 30-some% that you mentioned is really probably not a bad estimate in an off presidential election year. You can also come to legislative meetings, city council meetings, township trustee meetings, county commissioner meetings. You can actually go to those and watch them. Or you can watch on TV, at least for city council, on GTV2. You can go to committee meetings. You can join a neighborhood association. You can contact administrators and council members via email. You can help someone on a political campaign, or you can, in fact, run for political office. With the exception of law director, you are not allowed to run for law director. Maybe the next 10 years. I'm sure there are other ways that you can become informed and involved besides those, but the key is to find something that works for you and then do it. I hope that you will remember that in that process, that our government truly is our people. And to have an effective understanding and participation in government, you have to remember that it involves relationships among human beings. So by definition, it is not going to be perfect. Our government is what we want, or perhaps what we allow it to be. And if we don't like it, we can change it if you participate. Thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Other than attorney-client confidence is about Mike, I think we've already gone over that. Thank you.